And that is in the person, no other than our Mrs. Karlene Kelly-Reid, and she is the Financial Solutions Manager for JMMB, Jamaica Money Market Brokers Mandeville branch. She has over 18 years of experience in the financial sector. She is a past student of Manchester High School, Hampton High School, UWI, and Nova Southern Eastern University. So she qualified, where she completed a Master's of Business Administration with honors and was inducted into the Sigma Beta Delta International Honor Society. So, as I said, she's knowledgeable. We have somebody who will pass on some good knowledge to us this evening. And she was the valedictorian of the 2007 graduating class. Karlene is involved in a number of civic organizations. She's a past president of the Rotary Club of Mandeville, where she was awarded Rotarian of the Year. And that is for the period 2012 to 2013. She's also the past president of the Icebreakers Toastmasters Club in Mandeville, where she is designated a competent communicator and was the first runner-up in the National Evaluation Competition in 2017. She's a two-time Area 9 International Speech Contest speech winner, and is now a member of Dynamic Speakers Toastmasters Club and the current Area 8 International Speech winner and Division 81B Speech Champion. She's also chairman of the Manchester Festival Queen Committee and was the first person from Manchester to win the Miss Jamaica Festival Queen title in 1991. So we have a celebrity here, man. So she's not only knowledgeable, she's a great and awesome speaker and a celebrity. She's a past director of the Manchester Chamber of Commerce and has served on the Manchester Parish Library Committee and the Manchester Parish Victim Support Unit. She was recently appointed as chairman of the board of the Victoria Town Primary School. She's a member of the United Church Senior Citizens Home, and she is actually a faculty member, an adjunct faculty member for University College of the Caribbean, where she lectures in public speaking and academic writing. She's a mother of two children, Dominic Reid and Nicholas Reid. So we're going to ask that you put your hands together as we welcome our speaker for tonight, Mrs. Karlene Kelly-Reid.
I want to share this testimony because it really was a crisis in my life, and I know the theme for the week and the fact that in crisis, we have to pull closer to God. So in 2014, I want to share this with you. In 2014, my daughter was to go off to university. She was intent on a particular area of study, and I panicked. I did not know where it was going to come from to send her to university. So it was sleepless nights, panicking, depression, everything. She had been accepted to do medicine here in Jamaica, but she wanted to go to Trinidad to do dentistry. And it was a burden that I carried. I remember one morning waking up at 7 o'clock. I'm going to try and go very quickly. Waking up at 7 o'clock. Well, I was up, and then my pastor called me at 7. No, he never calls me at home. So I was so taken aback, and I said, Rev, yes, Rev, I was just kind of frightened. And he said, Karlene, I'm calling to tell you that if you're worried about how Dominique is going to university, you are not to worry. And I was like, Rev, how? I've never discussed with him anything about and I said, Rev, how do you know that that keeps me up at night? And he said, I woke up with it in my spirit and I needed to call to let you know. Fast forward about 3 weeks after that, my son was graduating and my cousin came to Mandeville to come to attend the graduation. While he was there, he was telling us about his church. And by some miracle, my daughter in the week was in Kingston and ended up at this church. While she was there, the pastor kept saying, there's a Dominique here and she needs to come forward. She sat in her seat because she said, nobody knows her here. This can't be her. So she don't really know why this person is calling and saying that somebody is here by the name Dominique. Now, my cousin didn't even know that she was coming on the day that she came. So it's not like he could have told. Anyway, well, at some point she said, okay, let her go. She would go up. When she went up, the pastor said to her, there's a change coming in your life as it relates to your education, and you are going to Trinidad to study. There is absolutely no way he could have known that, because even my cousin figured she was going to do medicine here in Jamaica. So he didn't even know anything. It was just a very small part of the family that knew what her heart's desire was. And he said, you are not to worry about finances because from September to December, whatever, you'll be fine. So she came home and she said, Mommy, this is what happened. I wasn't there. She said, this is what happened. What do you think? And I said, boy, I don't know, but maybe something is going to happen for you. Fast forward now, that was the 9th of July. And the 20-something of July, we had 25th of July, I remember the date, we had an appointment to go to the student loan bureau because that was going to be my solution. I woke up the morning and I said, I couldn't sleep the night before. Something kept saying to me, don't go, don't go. But I woke up and I said, boy, I really have this feeling that I'm not to go. She's the one who said to me, Mommy, you have millions of dollars put down for my education. I said, no. She said, let's go as a backup. So I said, all right, you get ready, I'll get ready. When I got ready and went to her room, she was totally sick, could not move, had diarrhea. And I said, there's no way we can travel into Kingston like this. So you know what? When I get to work, I will call them and tell them that we can't make it to the appointment. I got to work and everything came out of my head. Every time I remembered that I'm supposed to call them, the appointment was 9:30, something happened and I totally forgot. And I remember at 2 minutes to 1 because I looked at my phone and I said, these people are going to think I'm crazy. How can I have an appointment from 9:30 and I'm calling at 2 minutes to 1? When I called and dialed, and the message said to speak to someone, press 9, and I pressed 9. That's on my work phone. Immediately my cell phone rang, the same time. So I went to my cell phone and I said, hello, and the person said, may I speak to Dominique Reid? That's my daughter's name. I said, she's not with me. She doesn't have her phone. Something had happened to her phone, but you can give me the message. And she said to me, I'm calling from the University of the West Indies. We are giving her the UA Open Scholarship. The exact same time that I'm on the phone, and I should have called them from 9:30, and I only called them at 2 minutes to 1. And she said to me, she fully accepted into medicine. I said, no, she actually wants to go to Trinidad. And the lady said to me, she's free to go to Trinidad. It's the UA Open Scholarship. Wherever she wants to go, she can go. I told the lady, hold on 1 minute. And I went back to the other phone. Because I was so caught up talking to her, I couldn't believe it, tears running down my eye. And I said, hold on. And I went to the other phone. And when I went to the other phone, the person had hung up the phone. I never spoke to anyone at the student loan. Oh, and I should tell you, when I woke up the morning and I was telling my sister that, you know, we're supposed to come for this appointment in Kingston. My sister is in Kingston. She said, where is your face? Where are you going? You're not to go. And she basically cussed me off on the phone and said, you have no face. But I still tried to go. And you see everything that happened while we didn't go. I'm here to tell you that my daughter completed studies 2 years ago, 2021. It did not cost me a cent. The scholarship that she got covered tuition, boarding, books, food. They even gave her money for food while she was in Trinidad. And then I learned that God can truly do exceedingly and abundantly, because nowhere in my mind would I have imagined. She finished with distinction. She got all the awards for her class. And just a little fun fact, she's now the Miss Jamaica Festival Queen. So she followed my footsteps 30 years later in entering the competition. I wanted to share that with you because it's really the basis of what we're going to talk about today. God can do exceedingly and abundantly above all that you can ask or imagine. From my pastor calling me when I never said anything to him, to that prophecy that she got, to how the whole thing was fulfilled. And I mean, there's more to the story that I could tell you, but let me move into my presentation. God is good. God is amazing. I would love to share my screen. Do I have that capability? Can I share? Let me try. Okay. I really don't need a PowerPoint presentation. I did have some points. Let me try again. Let me see. Share screen. In the interim, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay.
Your screen.
Great. Yes. So thank you very much for listening to me. I hope that my story would have blessed somebody this evening, because I really and truly learned what God can do when I saw how he worked out that situation. I want to again thank you for inviting me this evening. I want to thank Mrs. Campbell. Such a nice lady. She constantly kept in touch with me, wished me a blessed day, asked me how I was doing. So thank you so much for the warm invitation and welcome that I've received. So today we're going to be talking about surviving a financial crisis. And there is no doubt that we are in the midst of a crisis with the COVID pandemic. And similar to the pandemic, where persons with underlying conditions tend to be more negatively affected by the pandemic, what we have actually seen is that where you have financial vulnerability, you are less able to survive or where you're financially vulnerable, you are less able to weather the storm that this crisis has brought. So as our moderator said, calling her the moderator, we have seen persons losing their jobs. We've seen persons having additional expenses, whether it's through healthcare. We have seen that inflation has gone up. Inflation now is at 8.2%. What that means is that on average, and I'm sure all of us feel it, we go into the supermarket and we know that we're spending, well, I felt last week when I went, I felt like I was spending twice what I would normally spend at the supermarket. So we've all had to face the economic storms. Now, and what we have found is that persons who previously felt that they were financially secure, what has happened is that this pandemic has opened up and shown and revealed that you might not be as secure as you thought you were. So, facing the crisis, surviving a financially during the crisis, the number one thing is to be prepared. Now, the truth is, and I have to be honest, the best time to prepare for a crisis is actually before the crisis. It's actually in advance of the crisis. But now we are faced with really an unprecedented situation. So no matter what preparation you might have made, we are now in a situation where all of this was unprecedented. Nobody could have seen this coming. So here I'm going to share a little bit. I'm going to share parts of my own story, if you don't mind, and how I would have weathered my own financial storms. The truth is that there's hardly anything that you will want to do in life that's not going to have financial implications, right? As I say, you're going to have goals, no matter what the goals are, whether it's retirement, whether it's to have a business or education, car, travel, whatever the goal is, there is some financial implication. How you manage your money has a large part to play with your goal, attaining your goals, because there are very few goals that will not require money. Thanks be to God, salvation is free. But that's pretty much the only goal that might not cost you, will not cost you. So one of the key things is recognizing and managing your financial life. Managing your financial or your finances basically spills over to how you manage your life. And I've learned that. Now, I wanted to do a little exercise because now we're in the crisis, funds are tight, your budget is tight, and just for fun, I wanted to just ask a few questions to see how tight are things financially. So, my first question, do you cross your fingers every time you use your credit card? Are you just making minimum payments? Don't answer aloud. This is just a rhetorical question. Bills come, that boy, you put them aside and you're really scared to open them and to look at what's in them. Do you say a prayer every time you go to the bank machine? Lord, let there be money. Do you find it difficult to respond to emergencies in life? So sudden illness, cars, crisis, as we're facing now, how are you able to respond? And the last one, do you feel that your salary is finished even before you receive it? And most times you might have to end up borrowing to take you through from one paycheck to the next. The answer to any question, any of those questions is a yes, then the budget is tight. But do you know that in reality, a lot of money goes up in thin air in Jamaica, like literally disappears in thin air? And I want to give a prize for anybody who knows how money disappears in Jamaica in thin air. Anybody want to hazard a guess? Literally thin air. There's a lot of money in Jamaica, billions of dollars that go up in thin air in Jamaica. Okay, nobody wants my prize? Okay, the number one way that money disappears into thin air is from cellular phone calls. Think about it. All the money spent on credit and talking, where is the money? Where is it? It's literally in thin air because you've talked about it, right? You've talked it out. The second way that billions of dollars that disappears in thin air in Jamaica is credit card debt. And credit card debt is ballooning in Jamaica at alarming rates. So in 2003, overall credit card debt was about 5.65 billion. 2012, it went up to over 20 billion. And let us not even think about where it is now. Why do I say credit cards go up in, your money goes up in thin air? I say that because no matter, okay, if you have a credit card that has $100,000 limit and you charge $100,000 and you pay back $99,000 of that $100,000 debt, what do you believe you're paid, you're charged interest on? You are charged interest on $100,000. It matters, it doesn't matter that you paid back $99,000 or $99,999. The fact that you owed $1 on that card, it means that the bank has the ability to charge you interest on the full $100,000 at rates of 50-odd%. So what we have happening now in Jamaica, and especially in this crisis, is that people are relying on credit to make it through. And it's something that we all have to watch carefully. Try to charge only what you need and can pay off at the end of the month, so you avoid all of that. Then hire purchase debt is another way that money disappears in thin air. When you've bought an item on a hire purchase, you will literally pay for it 4 times over. And remember, even if you paid for how many months and you missed out 1 or 2 payments, the company has the right to come and repossess that furniture because you still haven't paid for it, even when you pay for it 4 times over. And I literally did the calculation. You know, these nice things that come out in the papers with the brochures, and they tell you, oh, just pay X amount weekly or monthly. And when you add it up, when you literally calculate it, you would have paid for the items 4 times over. That's somewhere, that's one place that money is disappearing. Now, I'm not preaching to the converted here, but the other place is through lotto. Think about how many times you pass the shops and people, long lines of people. And how many people do you think actually wins? Where is all of that money? It's disappearing again into thin air. And the same thing happens with smoking and cigarettes. And no, I'm preaching to the converted, so I'm not even going to spend much time on that. But in addition to blowing that smoke into thin air and all your money has disappeared, you are also developing serious health complications that are going to cost you financially at the end of the day. So I say this to say that sometimes we look at the situation, it looks grim, and we ask ourselves, how am I going to manage? Truth is, there is money that is being spent that probably doesn't need to be spent. The question is, we did our little exercise, the budget is tight. How do I find money to save and invest? How will I survive a crisis? And that's what I'm here to share with you today. Now, the first thing we need to do in a financial, well, we need to do it regardless of whether there's a crisis, yes or no, but we must do it. Absolutely must do it in a crisis. You have to make that budget. You have to go through that exercise. It's very tedious, but I did it. I've done it. And it has really opened my eyes, changed my life, transformed things for me. As I said, I'll share with you, when I built my house and now had this mortgage to carry, I did what I call structurally adjusting my life. Now, I don't know if you can recall hearing on the news when we were in the IMF and there was this IMF agreement and there was all this talk about Jamaica is undergoing a structural adjustment. And what that was is that the IMF was saying, you can't spend this money on roads, you can't pay the teachers, you have to cut the public sector, structurally adjusting Jamaica, saying that we need to live within our means. I went through that structural adjustment of my life. So I just want to give you some little examples of things I had to do. So when I went through the process and I looked at things like my light bill, I said, no, I'm spending way too much money for my light bill. This was years ago, you know, because I've lived in this house for like 10 years. And my light bill was like $15,000 a month, 10 years ago. So that is to tell you. One of the things I did was that I bought a brand new fridge. Can I tell you that by doing that, taking out all of my bulbs, changing them to energy saving bulbs, and other things that I can share with you, my light bill went 8 years or whatever ago, from 15,000 down to under 5,000. And just now is where it's kind of inching up again to about 7,000. That's a lot of money that I have been able to save just by taking that action. So one of the things I want you to think about is what are the actions you're going to take that can make a difference financially for you. So it was tough, but I had to do it. The other thing I did, just giving you some examples, I used to pay, I can't remember how much on my cable, and I had 2 cable boxes. Well, I removed one. I saved 3,000 something every month just by removing one and changing my package down to a basic package and that kind of thing. I used to have these nails, you know, these long nails that you fill and you polish and every week you have to go and so I cut that out. I had to discover what was the difference between luxuries and needs. But all of this I did after I went through the budget process. So let's look at the budget process. There are 6 basic steps. First one, you have to assess all your income. So your salary, any rent you might collect, if you get child support, if you do anything on commissions, if you get gifts, if you're someone who works on commission, strike an average balance to know, okay, this is what I have to work with. This is what I'm getting. This is what I have to work with. And make that note. Now that is the easier part of the process. The harder part of the process is step 2, which is knowing all of your expenses. So where is your money going? And what I had to do was to walk around for 1 month. Every time I spent money, I had to make a note of it. Everything. even insignificant ones. So if it's phone cards, if it's newspapers, if I buy lunch, all of that, I had to go through that. Use a notepad or your phone. If you have a Samsung, you can make a Samsung notes, note all of the expenses. If you have, and JMB has a nice budget sheet that helps you to note everything. If you have like an annual expense, break it out. Like let's say car insurance or something like that. Break it out into what it costs on a monthly basis and make the provisions for it. So noting all the expenses, very tedious, but guess what? It's very eye-opening, because that's when I started to realize, okay, this is what I'm spending money on. I just spent X amount on nails and recognize that I had to make adjustments. So this is about making adjustments. Surviving the crisis is about making the adjustments. And now we have to really make adjustments. Oh, tithing. Wow, what a wonderful thing. I have to share my experience with tithing. So we know the scripture, bring the whole tithe into the storehouse that there may be food in my house. Test me in this, says the Lord. I will throw open the floodgates of heaven and pour out so much blessing that you will not be able to store it. There is truth in this. So when I was going through my crisis, I have to confess that, you know, I wasn't consistent with tithing. I was just not. And sometimes I said, boy, you know, boy, this month I have this or I have that. You know what has happened to me since I've started? And during that time, I was living hand to mouth, paycheck to paycheck, struggling to get from one paycheck to the next. Would you believe that since I started tithing, that does not happen at all? I go from 1 month to the next, and I still, boy, God, I don't know, God is good. My sister, she and I sharing notes now, and she's saying the same thing to me. All of a sudden, she's getting all these new contracts. She's a consultant. All of a sudden, she religiously tithes, religiously. All of a sudden, her contracts are just pouring in. Right now, she cannot manage the amount of work that she has to do. I remember my cousin was that the same cousin who took my daughter to the church or invited her to the church. My cousin was ridiculed at his job because of his commitment to his church, to tithing, to Christ. Ridiculed. Can I tell you that all the people that ridiculed him are now without a job? All of them were made redundant, and he still has his job. And he says, Karlene, God protect my earnings. A tithe, God protected my earnings. So I am here as a living testimony to say it is true. God really pour out a blessing. That's what's happening to my sister right now. She cannot manage the work. But the first thing she does at the beginning of every month, she sends her tithes to her church. She said, we have to support the work of the church. So I'm saying this because in expenses, when you note it, pay God first. It is God's to begin with. Pay him first. No, when you look at all of your expenditure and you look at all of your income and you do the math, you might find yourself in a minus position. If expenses are greater than income, don't panic. And I have here Matthew 6. That verse that says, if God can clothe the lilies of the field, he's going to do the same thing for you. No need to panic. You just need to rework the budget. Go over every expense item and look for places to cut. So whether it's energy conservation, look at your phone bill. Look, are you spending too much on entertainment? Look at, as I said, needs versus wants. And trust me, you'll be able to do the math and make the calculations. Now, step 4 is to build in money for debt reduction. So essentially, a budget should already be including minimum payments that you're making on your debt. However, if you really want to get into a position of surplus, you need to pay down that debt, meaning, and you have to make a list of the debt and look at the most expensive debt and what are the ones that you can renegotiate. By going through all of that process, you will be able to find money, because the truth is, it doesn't make sense for you to be putting money in, say you're building up a savings account, because what you are going to be paid on the savings is very minuscule to what you'll be paying on debt. And some of the debt might be unnecessary debt. Negotiate lower cost debt with your creditors. Even in this crisis, a lot of institutions, JMB I know for one, reworked people's loan payments, made it more manageable, gave them payment holidays for 3 to 6 months. These are things that you can do, and banks are willing to work with you. It's not that they want to seize your car, or they really don't want to do that. They would rather have your loan performing so they can rework the terms. Find an institution that's willing to do that. You know, I've been hearing all these ads on the radio and on TV, and people telling you that you can switch from this to that. Look into it. It may really help you in terms of your debt stock. So they'll tell you, like, you can switch your mortgage from one company to another at a lower interest rate, and you get all kinds of terms. These are things that we really need to look into to see. I actually looked into it myself. It didn't actually work out, so I haven't done anything yet, but at least it gave me the information. Okay, this is what can happen if I do. And another thing that they do is provide incentives. So they'll say to you, oh, we'll waive X fee if you switch your mortgage. It works. Now, the next thing, of course, is that we have to build in money for savings and investing. And if you're not disciplined, you can do it by a salary deduction. What I do is set up a standing order. So at the end of the month, 2 days after or a day after I get paid, a certain amount comes out and goes into a designated account. By doing it by salary deduction, it really forces you to be disciplined about it. Because, you know, it's almost like another deductible from your salary. Same way you pay NHT and ed tax or whatever, you can treat it like a deduction. And once you do that, you know what the truth is? You adjust. You make the adjustment. Because as humans, God give us that human nature, you know, we'll adjust. So aim to save at least 10% of your income and look for options that allow you to start small, because guess what? The important thing is to start, and it doesn't matter where you're at, it's the fact that you made that commitment. You know, that reminds me of the verse about sowing and reaping. Whatsoever man soweth, that shall he reap. It's like that with investing. It's what you put aside, it's what you sow that you are able to reap at a later date. Now, JMB Easy Access account starts with $1,000. On that $1,000, you're paid interest. There are no fees that are there to eat out your funds. You get a card, you can use it at the machine and so on. and there are no fees for that. So it's even a JMB easy access account. The critical thing is to start sowing. Start sowing so that you can reap later on. Now, step 6 is to stick to the plan. A lot of times when we think about budgeting, we think about it as something that constrains us, that restricts us. You can't get to do what you want to do. But if you think of it more, not about what you are giving up, but more in terms of what you are gaining, meaning you just change the mindset about it, you can get control. Remember the difference between luxuries and necessities. That is a problem we have in Jamaica. We think of certain things as necessities, brand name, this or whatever, and it's really a luxury. And set out your financial goals. When I say set out your financial goals, it's good to write them down. So having that plan, knowing what it's going to take to get you to the plan, knowing the cost of that objective. So let's say the goal is that you want to buy a new car. You must have an idea of how much that's going to cost, what it will take to get you there, what you're going to put aside. If you have it as a documented plan, it's much easier to follow. And JMB again allows that. So every client leaves with a plan for their specific goals, even if the goal is just to build an emergency fund. So critical thing, stick to the plan. Sticking to my plan was not easy. Not easy by any stretch of the imagination, but I have seen the rewards of sticking with the plan. Tips for cutting expenditure. So here again, we're in the crisis. We have got to cut expenditure. Leave the credit debit cards at home. If you have the temptation, you are more likely to spend when probably you don't really need to spend. If you, for instance, you might have food in your fridge, but you decide, okay, you're going to go buy lunch, on the way home, you're going to go buy food. Remove the temptation to do that. You carry only money that you're likely to use. And I read somewhere where somebody did that. They put money into envelopes so they know exactly this is for bus fare, this is for lunch, this is for, and just by breaking it out that way, you are less likely, because you're not going to open now the lunch envelope to pay for the bus fare. You would have known exactly what you expect to spend on bus fare. It's just a tip, and it can work. You know, the other day a client came in. The client wanted 7 easy access accounts. And when we asked why you want 7 accounts, he wanted 7 accounts because he wanted to know. He wanted 1 account for this, 1 account for that, 1 account for that. And so he wanted us to break it down into 7 accounts. Well, JMB being the company that we are, we actually sat with him and opened the 7 accounts. Just because he wanted that to help him to manage. Shop at wholesale. Lots of big differential in the price. Buying bulk. There are all these bulk places now that you can, if you can get in, that you can buy from. That can help you to save in the long run. Make the list before you go. Now, women, we are guilty. If you send a man to the supermarket, he's going to go, you tell him to buy a chicken, he's going to come back with just the chicken. But women, we like to look at what's new and decide, okay, I'm going to try this and take up that. So we end up spending more than we had planned to spend. But if you have it on a list, again, writing it down, there's a lot of magic in writing things down. You go, you pick up exactly what you need, and you come back out. Pack lunch for children. That's self-explanatory. Well, now we're in the crisis and the children are eating us out of house and home and land. But there, I hear because my children are grown now, so I hear my team members talk about how much they're now spending on food. Now is the time that you have to buy all those things, all that snack and stuff, and wholesale. Find homemade ways to do things. So, news flash, instead of the expensive facial, this that you're going to buy in the supermarket, a nice baking soda facial works even better sometimes. A lot of times you're paying for the package, you're paying for the bottle, you're paying, and what you really need is something basic. So I like doing that, going on to the hacks, life hacks, and finding all these different things that you can use that's going to cost you a lot less than. Conserve on gas, walk more, carpool. So I'll give you a story. When my daughter was at Hampton, and we were new, very Gladys parents, every parent was jumping in their car and driving down to St. Elizabeth to go to Hampton. Well, when the gas prices really hit us, we all had to sit down and say, no, this don't make sense, right? So you go this week, next week you go, third person goes, and that's how we worked it out. We carpooled and got our girls to and from Hampton without one car going down the hill with one girl, one daughter coming back up. It didn't make sense. And do you know that right now, we went further now and we said, why don't we get a bus? So we went and we found a bus man and we talked to him and it worked out so beautifully that the bus is still the bus that takes the Hampton girls and Monroe boys to and from school. Brainchild when we had to sit down and figure out that this didn't make sense with all of us going down. Don't buy gas when it's being delivered, you get less gas. Not only that, don't buy gas when the sun is hot, because gas expands and you actually get less gas when you buy in the middle of the day. So I will go with the thing going right down to E so that I can buy in the evenings or in the mornings, because when I check, it really does make a difference the time of day when you buy gas. Take a second job for debt reduction. So this is how you heard in my introduction that I teach part-time. This is how it came about. I had to say, okay, what gifts, what talents do I have? What can I teach? And that was actually how I became a lecturer. I started exploring how I can teach what I know and be paid for it. God give everybody talents. Whether you can bake, make gift baskets, floral arrangements, whether you can sing like Sister Cherie, whatever that talent is, let's use it. Because that's what God gave us that talent for. So think about it. Think about what you can do to earn extra income. Now, in a crisis, these are the tips for surviving a crisis. Now, remember the days when we used to say you have to live within your means? And that the concept was that you live within your means. So you only live, you only use what you know you earn, and that's it. You live within your means. But you know what the new thinking is now? When we're in a crisis, you have to live below your means. So that means going through that whole budget process that I was telling you about, because now you really have to be aiming to spend as little of your salary as you have. Only what is absolutely necessary should you be spending now in the crisis. So you used to like to go for ice cream on a Sunday, that might have to be cut. You get to the point now where you're really striving to live below your means, way below your means. Look at how you can create multiple sources of income. In a crisis, one income is not going to be enough. It's not going to carry you through. So what am I talking about? Maybe you're the only one in your house and there is a student who wants a room that they can rent, or you, as I said, can bake. Christmas is coming up. Some people can't bother with the baking. How am I going to supplement my income? And you know why this is important? Because as we have seen in the crisis, you can wake up tomorrow morning and not be in a job. You can. So if you have something else going on, what I love about JMMB encourages that. When you come to the interview, they say, hold on, what is your dream? You don't have a dream? What if Joan Duncan didn't have a dream? You wouldn't be here. What do you want to do? And they encourage you to do it. So everybody at JMMB have a little side hustle. Everybody. Because, you know, the company encourages that. And one of the things that they, before COVID, they used to have expos. So your staff expo, everybody that have the little business can come and display and say, okay, I do dresses. You know, I order in dresses and people can come and see your dresses. Who does cakes can do the cakes. Who does, you know, honey, whatever you can do. That's what you have to do. No. Number 3 is that you must, this is like an absolute must, have an emergency fund. Now, typically an emergency fund is supposed to be 3 months of your salary. So if anything happens, you can survive for 3 months without worry. However, in a crisis, we push that to 6 to 8 months of your salary. You're going to be asking me, how on earth am I going to save up 3 months emergency fund? It's possible. I'm here to tell you that it is possible. All that extra money, extra income that you find a way to generate, whether it's through, as I said, teaching, renting your place, that money is what you're going to use to build that emergency fund. And you put it in something that you can easily access, because in the event of an emergency, you are going to need to access it. So it can't be in stocks that you're going to be forced to sell, and sell it maybe not at the price that you bought it for. You have to have an emergency fund that you put aside. And in fact, what we at JMMB do, first thing we ask you, have an emergency fund? And we work on building that first. After you've built that, then we look at what else you can invest in. Plan for healthcare. Get health insurance. Take out those critical illness plans. My co-worker was just on the Susan show. She discovered that she had stage 2 breast cancer. And one of the things she said in the interview is that of all the insurance policies that she bought, the policy that she used to cuss her agent about every day was her critical illness plan. And she kept saying to him, why do I have to buy this plan? Why? And he kept saying to her, it's not the probability of cancer, it's the possibility of cancer. Cover for it. And I don't remember how many years ago, it's about 2013, she discovered that she had stage 2 breast cancer. If you see her now, she's so beautiful. There's no sign. And she lost her hair and everything, but there's no sign now that she went through that a few years ago. And it was because she had the health insurance. And the critical illness plans are not expensive. I have about 4 of them. And I don't think I pay more than $3,000 a month. And that's because I bought them some time ago. And at that time, you know, it wasn't a lot of money. And then every year or every couple of years, they ask me if I want to increase or I want to take out a new one. And because I spend that money, I'll give away that money and not even realize or miss it, then put it in a critical illness plan. It works. Number 5, we have to teach the children the realities of this new economy. And we must teach them to save. You can let your child know what is going on, why mommy can't buy X or why mommy can't do. They can learn. They also need to learn that if they get money, their first instinct must not be to spend all that money. Maybe you say to them, okay, you got this for your birthday, put aside this and the rest you can spend. If we build that habit in them from early, it will make a huge difference. I've seen it in my own kids. Sometimes I tease my daughter and say she has more money than me. Very religious about her saving. And they need to know too that we're in a crisis. They need to know, they need to understand. And my sister and I keep referring to my sister. My sister is my twin sister. So if you see me and I don't say hi, or I don't know you, it's because it's not me. So my sister and I have this running argument because she always says to me, stop talking to the children about money. Stop it. But you know what happens with her daughter? She has one child. Her daughter loves brand name everything. And my daughter now find it very hard to spend any money. She don't buy her anything brand name. She's like, that's way too expensive. Why would you buy that? That's how she's thinking. But I remember the days when my sister used to quarrel with me. Stop talking to the children about money. She took them somewhere and they wanted something. And they said, Auntie Karen, can you buy this for me? Auntie Karen, I want this, but it is so expensive. And when she looked, it was something for like maybe $100. So she was upset with me because she said, I keep making the kids think that, it's so expensive. I'm happy that I did that because I have seen way better money management skills from my children than from her daughter. Two different realities. It's important that we start now. The time to start handling a crisis is before the crisis. So I have their noodle budget. I have a noodle budget. My noodle budget is, and I literally have it on my laptop, Microsoft Excel sheet. Remember, and I saw it in a magazine and I decided I needed to do this. So the magazine said the reason we call it a noodle budget is that when you're at university and you are scrimping and you can't find anything to, you can't afford nothing, sometimes you ended up eating noodles. You need to have a budget that when basically you would be down to your last, you need to know what that looks like. So I went and did up my noodle budget. Every now and then I look at it, I revisit it. I said, I can take this off or I can put this on. Noodle budget is that budget that you can live on with nothing. You have no salary, you have no anything. You know what it's going to take for you to live. That's your noodle budget. What you can cut out. So I do have a noodle budget and I would definitely recommend. So the whole thing is to start early, start with the sowing so that you can reap. And my mother always say you can't sow corn and reap peas. It's what you put in, how you take charge of the process that's going to make the difference. One of the things that I have learned working in the financial sector and every day interacting with people with money, like people who if they have to find 100 million, they can find it without really batting an eyelid. And I learn a lot from them. And I learn the things that they do. They are not the clients who come in with brand name anything. They are the most simply dressed persons. And they will drive the same car for how long? Right? And not think anything of it. And they invest in businesses and they invest in things that generate income for them. It's that what I discovered is that it's in the mind. It's in the mind. It's how you view yourself, wealth, value, the value that you place on yourself, the value that you place on money. It's just a mind thing. Critical thing too is to be consistent. Consistency works. I have a client who, she came to me and she said one day, not one day, the beginning of the year, she said to me, you know, I waste a lot of money. I'm always doing this, buying fast food, taking the kids to wherever, going up to, what you said the place name? Cork, someplace in Kingston. And she was telling me all the things that she wasting money. And she said, I'm going to stop. And she said, I'm going to, I'm in a partner, every little money, and I'm going to take out X amount of money every week, and I'm going to come in and I'm going to put that down. And the other day we looked at her and she called me one day and she said, you see how I'm doing? And I said, you know, I haven't looked at it in a while. And she said, yeah, man, look at it. The following day she came to see me and we looked at it together and we were like, wow. She had gone from to something like $5 million, you know. And I said to her, and I told her that I'm going to use her story when I do presentations and so on. She said, and I said, I won't call your name. And she said, you can call my name. I said, no, I would never call your name. But there's a lesson here about being consistent. I said, you never knew that you had that money. She said, no, because it would just disappear every week. She's the first one calling me every Friday to say, the bank closed yet, I can come, that kind of thing. She's very, very consistent and we have seen the results. We couldn't believe it when we looked. Diversify. I know, when you talk about diversification, all I'm saying, don't put your eggs in all your eggs in one basket. Look at different options that you can invest in, whether it's a unit trust, whether it's whether you can buy stocks. Diversification works. Be knowledgeable, seek professional help to structure your portfolio. That's what we are being paid for. We give the advice free of cost. You don't have to pay an advisor to help you to structure and get your portfolio started. And of course, my last bit of advice is that if you're looking for an institution, make sure you come to JMB. The company is built on solid values. We believe client care is in our DNA. That's what we believe in. The joy for us is knowing that our clients have been able to achieve their goals. The other day, I stopped at a gas station. And the attendant ran out to me and she said, Miss Kelly. I said, what happened? She said, my son gone to Canada. And I said, really? And she said, yes. And we talked about it. The joy that gave me, knowing that we were able to assist her to have her son achieve his financial goal. That's what we live for every day. JMB helps you to focus on what's important, identify your goals, we assess your risk level, we create and monitor, we create a personalized plan. It's part of our financial planning service for each client. Each client leaves with a nice thing. This is your goals, like a package, and you can look and you can see this is where, if I keep at it, if I do this on a consistent basis, this is where I'll end up. And my goal will be in sight. And of course, we help you achieve your goals. Strategies for maintaining financial health: be aware of current events, read the newspaper, listen to the radio, watch TV, find journals. You have a responsibility to take your own financial health in hand. Seek the professional help and update your budget periodically, because circumstances will change. And if they change, you may need to change a strategy. But it is possible. I'm here to tell you that it is possible. My sleepless nights, my worrying how I'm going to get from 1 month to the next, especially after I took on my mortgage and had 2 children going into university. I'm here as a living testimony to tell you that, and I believe with all my heart that God had a hand. The main thing is trusting him and knowing that he is your source. God is your source, you know. It's not the job, it's not in my case, it's not my client, it's not anybody else. The source is God. And if you look to him, trust him, serving him in all that you do, he will take care of you. I've seen it in live and living color. Right? My child went through 5 years, 6 years. Well, the 6th year was internship, so the scholarship had ended. 5 years of internship, 5 years of studying in a foreign country, and was taken care of just like the lilies in the field. Clothed, fed, everything. And it could only have been God. So, don't borrow, survive, don't borrow. Well, I've said some of this already. Create multiple sources of income, protect your estate through insurance. Do not risk money you can't afford to lose. And don't borrow to buy things that depreciate in value. You're taking on a debt, let it be for something that is going to increase in value. So the last thing I want to say, and I'll take questions after, is it's just some little steps that just some minor adjustments, but it can make the world of difference to your life. Start with the budget, stick with it. I was happy to see in the chat, somebody mentioned that they use envelopes or labels to ensure that they stick with the plan. Remember that money is a resource that you've been given in the same way that you're given time, and it's for you to manage it well. And that is, I believe, God expects that of us too. So make the little adjustments, take the time. I go from sleepless nights, I go from worrying, I go from to, seeing what God has done. I've learned to be anxious for nothing, but in everything through prayer and supplication, make your request be known, and he can grant the desires of your heart. Again, I want to thank you so much for having me. I hope that I was able to add value, make a difference, so that you can take action towards managing in this crisis. If there are any questions, I would be happy to answer, more than happy to answer. So feel free. Thank you very, very much, everybody.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Sure.
How are you? I'm Courtney Johnson.
Hi, Courtney.
I'm overseas and with the JMB account there in Jamaica. What are some of the ways I can make deposit for me? Not all banks have the access where you can make deposit. What are some of the ways you can advise me to make deposit to that account or those accounts?
Okay, there are several ways that you can do that. Number one would be wire transfer, but there are costs associated for you to send as well as on the receiving end. There's a cost of $23.30. So most of my clients will send checks and we just lodge the checks. They do take some time to clear, but that is one way that you can actually send us checks, send us post-dated checks if you want to be consistent. But most people will use wire transfer because it's easy, the funds are cleared. It's just that there's a cost to sending a wire.
So 23 Jamaican dollars?
No. 20 US plus GCT, which works out to 23. That's $23.
And that is per transaction?
Per transaction. So it doesn't matter how much you send, you pay the same fee. So then it wouldn't make sense to send $100 if you're going to lose $23.30. Yeah.
No,
there are limitations with cash investments.
Yes, because I noticed when I come in and I try to make over a certain amount of deposits, then there's a fee.
Yes.
For
that is actually coming not from JMB, but from overseas banks that feel that Jamaicans have too much US cash. So they are limiting us in terms of the amount of US that we can accept from each client. So it's a maximum of $5,000 for the month, but you can only put 500 US cash per day without charge. If you go over that, you pay a fee. So you can put the whole 5,000, but you're going to pay a fee on the 4,500.
Yes, I did notice that. I did notice that. So
it's actually coming from the US.
Uncle Sam.
And we can understand because Jamaica, we have that problem with scamming. So they're putting all of these restrictions in place. The other day I was in the US. People use their card for everything. Just a $2 charge, $2 cup of coffee, they're going to put it on their card. And I said to myself, wow, Jamaica is, I think at some point going to need to get there if we're going to control the issues of scamming and too much US cash and so on. And that's what they're pushing us to. We went to a movie theater and we could not use cash to buy popcorn. Yeah. We had to use a card. Eventually, I don't know how long from now, Jamaica is going to get there because the US wants us to go in that direction.
Personally, I love to walk with cash because I don't know if you know about the sheriff's sale. There's that sheriff's sale where you owe Uncle Sam his money and he doesn't want you in prison. He wants his money. So he's going to send a sheriff come to your property and sell your stuff for penny on the dollar and give you a receipt and say sold. But I love to walk with cash, but it's not safe.
It's not safe.
It's not safe, especially in today's time. I rather you arm me because I don't have the cash to give you than you get the cash and also arm me,
Yeah. No, it is definitely not safe.
Yeah.
Not safe at all. So I recommend wire transfer or personal checks.
Okay, and I must thank you for this. When I saw JMB, I'm like, I got my question.
And thank you for joining from afar. I don't know where you are, but you said you're overseas.
Yeah,
so
I'm in Maryland, right by Washington, D.C. Yeah.
Okay. Yes, I have cousins in Maryland. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Courtney.
You're welcome.
And thank you for being a JMB client.
Yes, you're welcome.
I see something in the chat. Okay.
Well,
thank you, Kaden.
If there's any other questions, this is the time to ask your questions. We still have this week with us, so ask your questions. I agree. It was a very good presentation, very timely. And I think for me, what spoke to me is that um, you used your own self. So it was relatable. And I really appreciated that you were able to give your situation and I could relate as well. So thank you so much for that.
You're most welcome. I don't mind sharing my story because I believe, you know, people can learn from my own experience. I've been there, but I live a completely different life now. Completely. Sometimes I look back and I can't believe where I'm coming from. Hasn't been easy. I'm a single mother, 2 children, not that far apart, but they're both finished university. They owe nothing. So my son went through, he didn't get a scholarship, but he went through. I was able to pay for him. I was able to upgrade my car after driving the same car for 8 years, but recognizing that I was doing that because I had a plan. While my children were in university, it was not the time for me to go get a new car. So it's again knowing the difference between luxuries and wants and needs. When we know that, then. But the last thing I want to share, well, the last thing I want to talk about or just mention is the story of the Israelites. I mean, that story has so many lessons in it. How God provided for them every day. And him tell them, don't store up anything. Tomorrow will be a new day. And I asked myself, why did he do that? What was the thinking behind it? And I think he wanted you to have faith, to know that he is going to provide another day. So there's no need to store up today because he's going to provide for you again tomorrow. There's a lot of comfort in that story. Yeah.
Might I add?
Yes.
To just, you had noticed you're a strong family person with parent to children, and my wife and I are the same. We have 4 children. 2 was born in Jamaica, 2 born here, and just knowing if it wasn't for God's grace and His wisdom and knowledge that He imparted onto us. My first son, he went to college here for 9 years straight, back to back. He was born in Jamaica, but today he's one of the head of cybersecurity for U.S. government.
Wow.
Coming right out of Waterhouse, Jamaica, and
congratulations.
Thanks. We've went through difficult time. I remember at one point I had 23 or 24 different charge cards, store card, credit cards, and we got to our lowest. Everything was maxed out. Mm-hmm. And I went before God and talked to him and his guidance and wisdom again. And we sat down, we came up through his knowledge, say, okay, stop charging. You're going to keep the big one for the necessary stuff because we didn't have money to spend. But all the small, the big ones, you're going to pay your minimum. The smallest one, find it and put the chunk of money and pay it off. We got down to 5. And then I went to 0 balance on thousands of dollars. And today I can go out there and charge a refrigerator, charge a car. But then when I get home, I know I can go before they even able to access a penny interest on it. I can pay it off, and that I get into that where God imparted unto me discipline in using that card. I personally don't believe in throwing away cards or cutting up cards. I will keep them. I'll walk with it. Say, no, I'm not going to use it. On the other side, you talk about the man and spending. You send the man for a chicken, he comes back with a chicken. I am the opposite.
Okay.
Don't send me to buy a chicken. I'm gonna come back with a full house and some cows and the rice reel. My wife, on the other hand, you send her to buy a chicken, she may just come back with a chicken foot. She is very disciplined in going to the store. I am not. You know, so it was kind of funny when you say that. I'm like, not me. And from I'm young, I'm like that. You send me to the store and I have money in my pocket, I'm going to add stuff in there and bring home. But this is really healthy. That's really enlightening. Thanks.
Thank you, Courtney. Congratulations on that. I know that story of being burdened with the debt and, you know, fighting to get rid of it. And once you do, how the difference that makes for you. For me, when I send my son to buy something, he just brings back what I asked for.
Yeah, that's
and
discipline.
He does not look at the price. So I remember the other day he went and I asked him to get something, which he could have bought a cheaper brand, but I gave him the brand name. So when he came back with it, it was like, I said, why would you buy it? He said, but that's what you asked me for. That's what you told me to get. And I said, but Nick, do you know that you could have gotten it for like 1/4 the price? But my daughter now, she will go and look at everything and then decide that, okay, she's going to buy that one and that is the cheapest one. So it's, you know, it's just how we are, how we you know, think.
Yes.
But I think men definitely are more likely to just go and get the one thing.
I must agree with that.
Any other men in here want to share?
Yeah, me buying clothes and shoes. If I said I need a shoe or a suit for an occasion, I'm gonna think which of the store I'm gonna find. And I walk in that store, that thing catch my eye. I don't want to hear the price. I don't want to see the price.
Exactly.
That's what I'm gonna pick up and go cash it out. And they say, you know, this is so much. Just a short story. I went to board on my ordination as a deacon at my church here. I said, I'm going to make this, it's a one-time event, so a new shoe and suit and everything. I'm in the store and found the suit, the shirt, the tie, new tie, everything. And I said, oh, I need a shoe. And I saw this pair of shoes and it's like, this is the shoe. So I picked it up and the worker there, he said, oh yeah, that's a great shoe. And then he said, oh, Mr. Johnson, these are very expensive shoes. I say, I want the shoe. And he said, okay. And he's like, oh, Mr. Johnson, surprise. It's over 78% off. I'm like, what? 78%, so it's free. I didn't know I was buying an $800 pair of shoes.
Wow.
It was $800 for the pair of shoes. And I told him, ring it up, but then 78% off. And I'm like, you know, I still have that shoe after many years. Beautiful shoe, but I don't look at price. I just buy and move on. So there is a different thing in us, you know. Yeah.
That's why male merchandise is actually more expensive than female, because the marketers and so on, they know that men don't check the price. If they like it, they're going to buy it.
Yeah.
The woman will check the price. Yeah.
All right, let me hear what my brothers have to say online. Come on.
Thank you so much. Any other questions? Questions, comments? I mean, we learned so much tonight, so everyone is good and okay knowing about our budget. I know my takeaway for sure is to know the difference between luxury and needs. So that's definitely my takeaway tonight.
One quick question, please.
Yes.
Just for general purposes. She spoke about having an advisor, right? And so I'm throwing it out there for someone who might want to ask. If it is that you haven't yet accumulated any wealth or anything, you're just starting out, even from tonight's discussion, you want to make a change, how do you go about getting an advisor who can help to guide you through the process?
Well, you just go into any branch of JMB. They will log you to see a client relations officer, and that officer is going to sit with you, do the budget process, so that you and discuss with you any goals that you might want to achieve. Let's say you never started anything, you can say, I want to build an emergency fund. And they work through with you based on your budget, what it is that you can afford to put aside and all of that. And that is all free advice. I think JMB has one of the greatest levels of accessibility. People can come in and talk to us. They don't have to go through a whole bunch of red tape to get to speak to someone. Once you go to a branch and you're logged on our grid, you will be assigned to somebody who will go through, spend the time and go through with you. JMB was built on a vision that said that it doesn't matter how much money, but every Jamaican can achieve their financial goals. That was the vision of our founder. So all our structures are set up for that. Ordinary Jamaicans can come in. You can walk in or you can make an appointment. You can call our client care center, 998-5562. They can line you up for an appointment. It's very easy. Greatest level of accessibility. And I've worked with different companies, so I know what I'm speaking of. So you can walk in or you can call our Sudine is an auditor for JMB. You can still do business with us. Yeah, so it's very accessible. An appointment can be set through our client care center, or you can walk in and see somebody. We're open from 8:30 to 2:30 every day. We have branches in Kingston, Portmore, Ocho Rios, Mobay, Mandeville, Maypen, Santa Cruz. So, very accessible across the island, no matter where you are. Just to say that to open an account with JMB, you need an ID, TRN, proof of address, and the name and contact details for 2 references. The references don't have to sign anything, you just need your name and number. That's it. Very easy.